Welcome to the Private Lenders Podcast with your host from Hard Money Bankers, Jason Balin and Chris Haddon. This podcast is sponsored by hardmoneymastermind.com.
Hey everyone, thanks for checking out the show. We do appreciate it. Real quick before we get started on lead gen, we are gearing up and planning for our next Inner Circle meeting. It is in early May in Dallas. If you want to learn more, go check out Hard Money Mastermind, innercircle.com. Okay, so talking about lead gen, we want to discuss a few different ways that we and other companies that we know are implementing to generate a lot of leads for private loans. I want to start with a quick story. When we started HMB, so we closed our first loan in December of 2007, and we had been in real estate and other, aspects before then, right? Mortgage banking, real estate stuff, doing some investment deals for about 5 years before we started HMB. So we started with a little bit of a database. We each, took our spreadsheets from our previous businesses and put them into, I think it was iContact at the time, and basically just threw in every real estate contact that we had from being in business. And we started email marketing. The phone did start to ring. It started to ring pretty quickly because at that time, in case anyone was in real estate and finance in that period, just having capital made you like the most popular person in the area, right? We had some capital to lend, not a lot, but we were building it and we had some to lend out. And that made us different than a lot of the competitors who had just taken big hits in the real estate market crash, right? So just having access to capital at the time kind of made things easy. And that didn't last too long because the market bounced back, more capital came into it. And we knew that we had to improve our marketing game. And since day one, we were doing offline stuff too. Like we hit all the local meetups and everything else. We're going to talk about a few of those avenues, but not every lending company does it like this, but we decided to be marketers, right? And that's when a lot of the web stuff was getting going. Like social was just kind of coming online at the time, email marketing, paid traffic, learning what the heck SEO is and implementing that in our business and organic web leads. We dove into marketing. Not everyone does that. Not everyone has to do that. That's just kind of became the base of our company's operation and then kind of expanded out from there into the future.
Yeah, and like what Chris started with, we started with our email database. We didn't even start with any of our own money to begin with, but we started with an email database of real estate professionals, not necessarily real estate investors. We're like, let's take every single person that we knew, and we learned this from being real estate agents and mortgage brokers from the past, because we had bought it into like, hey, you have a database and you have past clients. As a real estate agent, let's mail them. And, early on when we were in our early 20s, Chris and I used to, even though we had different, we weren't even business owners. Like I was a real estate agent. He was a mortgage banker. Like we used to meet up at our houses and like lick envelopes and mail envelopes on weekends.
We did.
Fun.
We did.
And, tried to generate business that way. And I think, instinctually, we were able to understand that having a database was important, because even though like the business our individual businesses grew, slowly, it was like, hey, we have a database of like past clients. Let's mail them. We have a database of other people that are interested in buying or selling a house. Let's mail them. So anyways, fast forward to Hard Money Bankers, we use that database and we started with that. And even if you have a small database, that's all right. Even if it's a small amount of people. I mean, this wasn't thousands of people. This was hundreds of people back then. And they weren't even real estate investors. They were in the real estate business, meaning they're probably realtors or mortgage brokers or things like that. But that kind of taught us that like, hey, database marketing works. How are we going to expand on that? And it was like, let's do everything that we can to grow our database. When I say database, it was mostly email database, what we got into, but like at some point it was, originally it was direct mail, and now it's email database and, phone, text people, call people, whatever it is, it's database. And a lot of the marketing efforts that we did was in order to grow our database, right? Doing things online and offline, social media marketing, paid ad marketing. We spent tons of money on Google AdWords, and even though this isn't that's great for this topic. Like Google AdWords isn't performing as well as it did in the past, but that's just one avenue, right? The point is like we spent a lot of money on Google AdWords, so even if it's not performing great today, well, guess what? We have the email database from people filling out loan applications and lead forms through various channels, so they're in our email database. You probably heard us say that we used to buy leads from Connected Investors and My House Deals and places like that. We didn't buy those leads for 25 or 35 or whatever much they cost for years at a time. We didn't buy those leads just to be like, hey, they have a deal in play that needs to close today. We bought those leads so we'd have active real estate investors in our database that we can market for the future. Like we have closed loans from people that have been in our database from 10 years in the past. This is a long play. Marketing is a long play. You think we like going to RIA groups and meetup groups, nightly for years after years? No, but we did it to create a database. We got business cards. We created contacts. We put them in our database. And, now it's a click of the button in order to get a lead, right? Yeah. You write an email, you click a button, the email goes out to, our tens of thousands of 60,000 subscribers that we have and, local real estate investors, and we get leads from them. So that's kind of the mindset that has to happen is you're doing the heavy lifting marketing. If you follow this path, we're going to talk about a few different ways, but if you follow this methodology, is getting people into your database, so that lasts forever.
Yeah, and there's pros and cons to having a marketing driven lending company. Like the pros are that you get a lot of leads and a percentage of them turn into deals, relatively low percentage, and that's kind of the con. The con is that you get a ton of leads and you got to deal with them. Like there's some people in their lending operation, especially smaller operations or lending your own capital, they just don't want to deal with all that. And I get it. I totally get that. There's a guy who's a member of the inner circle, and he basically runs a relationship-based lending company, not a marketing-based lending company like we do. And he has, a few dozen real estate investors in a couple different geographic markets that he knows, has built a relationship with over the years, and he goes deep in that stuff too. Like he really becomes friends with his borrowers and really puts effort into those relationships, and that's who he lends to. And that sounds pretty cool too, compared to just hustling leads all day long, loan applications, calls, texts, everything else, the way we do it here, like to the tune of a few thousand a month between our couple different offices. That's a lot, right? And some people don't want to mess with that.
Yeah. And the interesting thing is, I feel like we're blended between, creating relationships and doing repeat borrowers. So, and we're kind of a mold between that and the other side of the extreme, where the larger institutional lenders and the ones that need massive volume, where in essence they're like a boiler room or a call center, and they're buying data from whatever lead source or whatever data provider they're buying. Like at one point in the game when we were doing direct mail, and again, this is, if you're starting out and you're trying to just do massive volume and touch a lot of people and you're willing to spend money on this, not necessarily, money and time, but listen, if you have no money and you're trying to, if you're trying to market for no money, go to a meetup group or a RIA group, or there are a lot of free channels that you're going to put sweat equity in. But if you're like, hey, I want to drop tens of thousands of dollars, and I wanted to look at stuff beyond just paid ads and things like that, potentially buy data and utilize that. Back in the day, we did direct mail, where in essence we bought lists of every local real estate investor that purchased more than 3 properties in the last 12 months, or had an entity that purchased more than 3 properties in the past 12 months. It's like, those are active real estate investors. We want to attract to them. We did mailings on them. But a lot of these companies, they'll buy data and of recently closed real estate transactions, and they'll call them, text them, mail them. And you can do that at scale. You can do it yourself. You can get sales teams, in essence, to do that. And again, the numbers, the closing percentages are low, but there's a way to do that at scale. And you can also outsource people to do that. So it just depends on what ways you're comfortable generating leads. Do you want to do it the free way and do sweat equity? Do you not want to put in as much sweat equity? Just throw capital at it. It just depends on what works for you. We're believers of let's do everything. Literally, let's try everything and let's figure out what works the best. and, concentrate on that, because things do change. There was points in our business that we were very heavy Google AdWords, and, we spent a lot of money on Google AdWords, and we were able to get a lot of very good deal flow from it. And we haven't had a lot of success with that, recently. We've been testing a lot of that stuff. We've changed things around. We just haven't had as much success as we potentially have had in the past, maybe oversaturation, what it is. So we're constantly tweaking to other things.
Yeah, I was really interested hearing about a company I've become familiar with in California. They're mainly commercial, but they do resi stuff too. And one of the founders of the company is an old school stockbroker, right? Old school stockbroker in that world, you're talking about outbound calls. They call people from lists that are targeted to be the right kind of stuff and try to sell them. And that's how he and a partner founded their lending company in Sacramento many years ago, around the time we started, and they grew it in the same way, in that same boiler room kind of way. They would hire young and aggressive people who wanted to work in phone sales, who were competitive and wanted to win and earn commissions. And basically they have a revolving door. I don't know how many people they have at any given time, but I did hear the owner say that about 80% of the people who come in don't make it past about 3 months. And the 20% that do, they end up doing very well because this is suited to them. And they are outbound calls for commercial brokers and commercial loan people and property owners, and just burning up the phones. That's their lead gen, right? And I thought that was super interesting because that approach to our business is pretty rare. That one's not as common. The relationship one, more so. Outbound marketing like we do, that's also pretty common. But yeah, I mean, I think the takeaway for everyone is see what you want to spend your time on, what you're good at, how you want to spend your days and that of your team, and how much of a team you want to have, all that stuff, right? And kind of settle into what the best lead gen strategy is for you, or a combination of a couple different things, like a lot of people do, right? It's a cool business like that. It works large, it works small in many different ways. You can adapt it to how you want your business and life to look.
And the good news is if you're either just getting started, or you really are trying to either keep your portfolio small, or you only really need to close a few deals a month, at least for now, you can do that without a lot of heavy lifting. Go to some meetup groups, go to some RIA groups, get in areas where other local real estate investors are, talk to real estate agent connections that you have, mortgage broker connections that you have. There should be easy ways to generate a few deals per month. And then you add to that as you scale. And it takes time to scale, right? Because a big part of this business is repeat business. Over 50% of the leads of the closed loans that we have are repeat, right? So like year one, that takes time to do. But as you continue, time is on your side with this. As you continue to grow in time, you'll have those repeat borrowers that are doing constant deals over and over and over, continuing to come in. So that'll continue to fuel your operation. And as you're bringing in more and more cash, you can use that cash and, press that forward to additional marketing and paid advertisement efforts.
Yeah, for sure. I hope you guys got some good takeaways related to lead generation in your business. If you haven't done so already, go check out hardmoneymastermind.com, create a free account. We will be there, and we'll see you next time on the Private Lenders Podcast.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Private Lenders Podcast. Please note that the opinions stated by all the speakers on this show are only opinions and not intended for legal, financial, or accounting advice. Please make sure to always check with your own legal, accounting, and financial professionals. If you enjoyed this episode of the Private Lenders Podcast, we'd appreciate it if you would spread the word. Make sure to check out hardmoneymastermind.com, the #1 free community for new and experienced private and hard money lenders.